Okay. I see me. Hey, everybody.
Fresh.
Oh, now I can see the timer and the chat. Ian says greetings. You are number one.
Hey,
Welcome, and please feel free to
take
chat
on.
on the subject of magic and mysticism. Teresa says, I'm early. I made a pizza because it's movie night. Awesome. Erin says hello. Hi, Erin.
Hello.
Welcome. We had a fun time on Ian's birthday. We had a rather strange event happen on his birthday. Ironically, out of all the restaurants that exist, the one we were in happened to be on the street that his sister decided to walk by while we were sitting in the booth. And we avoided eye contact. Ian didn't see her because she was coming from behind him. And I directed our attention away from the window just in time to make sure we didn't make eye contact, because who knows what could have happened, since, she's not mentally well. And so we avoided a potential but it was very strange that it happened on his birthday at his birthday dinner. So it was just kind
Yeah,
of weird.
Weird timing.
It was very strange timing. Carol Bell says hi. Hi, Carol. Erin says, I had a major thunderstorm on Friday. Ooh. Yes, thunderstorms can be kind of scary. I've been watching this documentary called Eye of the Storm, which is really scary to watch. All the weather we've had in the last few years, just incredible. I'm so glad I live where I live, where we generally don't get that. And the year that we had the incredible lightning storm, we were at the cabin in the middle of Oregon. So we missed it. But apparently that was pretty dramatic, where we had thousands of lightning strikes and things in the area. And I'm not sorry that I missed it. It would have been hard to sleep, but even here we sometimes get strange weather. So I'm assuming since you're here, you're safe, so that's good. Always good to be safe. The world is an interesting place. Kat says, hail all. Hi, Kat. Welcome. Both you and Carol, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Everyone else knows that they can ask questions. Carla says, hi, guys. Hi, Siofra and Ian. How were the birthday celebrations?
Good.
Yeah. Last Sunday after our live show, we went to my son's house and we all had the orange chicken dish that I made and the two cakes, the chocolate cake and the lemon cake, that was both quite tasty. And we had fun. It was low key and just like, all the birthday people were there, so that was kind of nice. We enjoyed it. And then on Thursday, on Ian's actual birthday, we took him to the restaurant and almost had that encounter with his sister, which we didn't have, so yay. So he had a nice lunch, which was good. We like to do that. So yeah, we had good birthdays. Everybody got their cards and, just kind of like happy that we're all together. Erin says, yes, very little damage from the hail. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Clean Channel says, greetings. Hi, Clean Channel. Welcome. I think we're getting a few people here we don't usually see or haven't seen in a while. Always interesting.
Cool.
New questions. I like them. Feel free to hop on in and ask anything about magic that you have on your mind. And welcome one and all. Carla says, everything sounds like it was delicious and that you all had a nice time. Happy birthday again, Ian.
Thank you.
Violet says, hello! Hi, Violet. Welcome. It's always interesting to see what YouTube does with people's names. Their highlights and letters and things. So, anyway. It's a nice day today. The sun is out. It's a little bit breezy, but not too bad.
Yes, it's nice and warm, but not too hot.
Yeah. I had to close my bedroom window because it was too windy from that side of the house, but it was blowing things around in my room. I'll open it up later and just get some more fresh air into the house. So Bunny's doing okay after we had to clean him again, which was not much fun, but he's much happier. I think he's starting to get used to this whole notion. Carlos says, I have a magic story. At least it seems kind of magical. I collect art from unknown people, and there was a painting of a mystic I was interested in at a shop. Okay. Sounds like the start of a good story. Teresa says, super hot here this weekend. My goats are out of their yard and lounging at my back door. They're panting. Want some water, do they? Goats are funny. Watched a bunch of videos of goats climbing into people's cars, vans and things like that, going, hey, take me for a ride. I want to get out of here. You look interesting. Clean Channel says, I'm new to your channel. I love the content. I really enjoyed your book recommendation video. I'm also new to esotericism, and I'm starting with Dion Fortune. Good book. Good author to start with. Just remember with all of the older, books and stuff like that, that as far as their moral stances on things are concerned, they are a product of their time as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
Yeah. But that's with all of those books. I mean, Back to Eden, the herb book, it's got the same kind of material in it, attitude-wise and stuff, but I really like her books. So you're welcome, and I'm glad that you enjoyed my book reviews. And it's always fun to be new to a new subject. Generates lots of questions, so that's what we're here for. Anything we can help with, just ask. I've been working on all of my videos and stuff like that and whatnot, and trying to get a list of things and what so forth. Carla says, I put in a bid for it. They accepted it and told me the history. I knew the people, now deceased, and dated the stepson of the owner in our teenage years. The owner was a substitute teacher in MS, Missouri. Cool. I love synchronicities like that. Middle school, in case MS wasn't clear. Okay, middle school. Teresa says, my first witchcraft book I ever read was Witchcraft, The Sixth Sense by Justine Glass. I liked it, though I later learned she is not a witch. Oh, how disappointing. I tell you, with working with ChatGPT, I'm wondering how many magic books out there are actually written by people at this point. You never know. It's kind of interesting. But that's cool to have that kind of a link. When threads from different parts of your life come together in your location from the universe. It's just sort of a really neat set of coincidental synchronicities and stuff like that, which makes it all that more significant and meaningful, I think. I was just talking about how that doesn't happen as much as it used to in the old days before we had computers and internet and all this other stuff that we use for communication now. When people could only communicate like through word of mouth or direct contact, it definitely changed. It's changing the way the universe is working with us, I think. It's taking a while for the universe to adapt to this new way of getting information out there to where it wants it to go. Carlos says, no history as to who painted it, but it's gigantic and on canvas. He had art majors, so I'm wondering if he painted it. I don't know if I can find the stepson or not. Be cute to see. Clear Channel says, I'm just concerned about the pitfalls on the spiritual path that I should be wary of and how to recognize dead ends. That one is difficult. I mean, there are definitely some dead ends. Most of them involve some fantastical way of thinking that just sort of leads you down a spiraling hole into another universe that may have no relationship whatsoever with the world that we happen to live in. But in reality, anything you can learn from what you explore and experience turns out to be a good foundation. Because then, if you see the same kind of thing come up later, you'll recognize the warning signs of it. So just try to be open-minded and discerning when you're starting. And it's okay to question whatever it is that's happening, because it's only through experience that you figure out what really works for you. And it really, the way you get into it is less important. The pathway in, like there's like 1,000 different ways to start becoming involved in the subject, and it can be through reading material or through interactions with nature or stones or tarot or whatever, and they can all kind of lead into it. And once you get into it, the whole point of all of this is to develop your own personal relationship with the universe and create your own magical path, what works for you, for your personality, for your life, for everything that's going on around. So there's no one way of doing it. So it's hard to just say that's going to be a dead end, unless you give me some specifics. I would say in general, a lot of psychic readings are probably dead ends because they tend to get you off in the direction of the person who's doing the reading and what their personal biases might be, and might be more obfuscating than clarifying, because you're going to get their prejudices and their take on things. So we really try not to do that on our channel as much as possible. It's impossible not to have some biases, but that's what I would say. Alucarda says, what do you think of the crystal countdown meditation to get into alpha? I have a hard time getting into that state because I'm very Mercury influenced. Any other recommendations? I'm not familiar with the crystal countdown, but if that one's not working, maybe you can try some breath work instead, or some I don't have a problem getting into the alpha state, so I'm not a good person to ask. Apparently, all I have to do is close my eyes, according to the equipment I was hooked up to. That's all it took, because I've been sort of meditating my entire life without knowing that's what I was doing. But you might want to try doing something a little bit more direct, like doing your meditation under a tree, out in the grass, in nature, in some kind of a natural setting where you can connect with the life energies that's around you, because if you can connect to that, you're probably going to be in an alpha state. Beth says, hi everyone. Hi Beth. Clean Channel says, thank you a lot. You're welcome. Violet says, you guys do an amazing job with any bias. You are two of the very best. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Teresa says, I hate when YouTube videos say, you found this video for a reason, or when the host calls the audience chosen ones. Ooh, yeah, ooh. I'm with you on that. I'm like, yeah, some AI tells me that, I'm going to go like, yeah, I'm not, no, not doing that. Whatever it is, I don't care. Go away and leave me alone. I like to make my own decisions. Thank you very much. Very particular about freedom of will. Carla says, Crystal Countdown, question mark, wondering what that is.
Taken from Laurie Cabot's book entitled The Power of the Witch.
Oh, okay. Laurie Cabot has that one, huh?
Based on Pythagorean principles of color and number to count down into a trance-like state called alpha.
I see. Well, I've heard of Laurie Cabot, of course, but yeah, she's rather influential in the East. She's from Massachusetts and so forth, and has written a lot of books on the subject. But like I said, there's a lot of different techniques and so forth that are out there, and if one technique doesn't work, try another. Alucarda says that sounds like a good idea. Gabrielle says, hey everyone. Hi, Gabrielle. Alucarda said, yes, that one. Yeah.
Well, it consists of counting down from 7 while visualizing the colors of not the regular chakra system, but the other, the New Age chakra system.
The rainbow system.
Type of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And counting down, and so it's basically
the idea of going from here down into your
and
base.
The counting down is a method of self-hypnotism.
Right.
So it's a combination of that. So I mean, it seems like an okay method that's not, I don't know that the color visualizations actually have any relevance, but it seems like an okay method.
Well, there's also like walking down a staircase, getting in an elevator, going down.
Like
the idea of counting down.
Like walking down. Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of self-hypnosis methods use that.
So that's basically similar to that, it sounds like.
Okay. I had a thought in there. What was it? You might want to try the sacred tree meditation, because that can help you get into an alpha state. Because the way we do it, it's like the whole meditation itself is like, going down into yourself, connecting to the planet, pulling energy in, connecting to the universe, pulling energy in, and that kind of stuff. And if you do that completely, you're definitely in an alpha state when you're finished, if not all the way through, pretty much. At least it does that for me. You might want to try some other different kinds of meditational practices.
One of the main ones that's practiced for reaching that same kind of state in Buddhism and such is simply to watch the breath, to think, have no thoughts, simply watch your breath. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Just watch yourself breathing in and breathing out and ignore everything else. And that's one of the real starter methods to that helps to get people into that state that's well used by mystics and Buddhists.
And that can help a lot of people because everyone knows that they can breathe. You don't need any equipment or any special props.
Well, and you don't have to think about it. That's the one big advantage, So it stops all that excess thinking, helps to stop all the excess thinking and stuff,
Ron says, hello, Siofra and company. Hello, Ron. Teresa says, meditation question. If one were to do meditation solely consisting of centering, would that be enough to strengthen one's core and personal power, or are other practices necessary?
Well, I guess for me, I'd have to ask exactly what the definition of centering is, so I know what you're talking about practicing, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, my idea of centering is getting inside of yourself, and knowing who you are, which certainly can lead to strengthening your core and personal power, because if you are in your own center and you're in your body and in your spirit and so forth, then all of those things are available to you.
Yeah, so that's kind of a tricky question because it mostly depends on where you're at, really. Certain things could be enough, but usually it requires other practices before you can get to the state of doing them. So one of those things that can do it alone is simply watching, being aware and watching yourself completely, being thoroughly aware of yourself, not just your physical body, but fully aware of your emotions, fully aware of your thoughts, and doing so without being involved in your thoughts and emotions. So you're just watching, be just an observer without thinking. That alone can lead to it completely. There are a lot of single exercises that can completely lead to your development or enlightenment, but you have to be able to do them. And that's where a lot of the other practices come in, because most people can't simply do that. The one I just described, for example, most people can't simply do that off the bat and with a lot of practice. So you may have to acquire a lot of other skills. One of them, of course, is simple concentration, where you have to be able to be aware of what you're doing and pay attention for a certain amount of time. Um, like 10 minutes without wavering is what Barden starts you at. So there are a lot of things. There's a book called the Vijnana Bhairava, and that has to do with uh, Indian meditations and things. It lists 112 methods by which that's the only method you need to achieve it fully. But again, you have to have the abilities to achieve it. So I guess my answer would be yes and no at the same time. Like most things concerning enlightenment, it's all a paradox. Or it sounds like a paradox. It's not really. It just sounds like it till you get over that.
So Carla says, can I ask a personal question of you and Ian? It's kind of magical, empathic, and yes. Alucarda says, I need to try that. Thank you. You're welcome. Robert says, hails everyone. Hi, Robert. Teresa says, centering on your center core. I meant focusing on. I think Ian has answered the question.
Yeah, it could be and can be if you could do it 100%. And again, another thing to do with centering is, if you want to really talk about centering, you talk about what's called the central point within yourself. And that's where you shrink your consciousness down. You place it in your solar plexus. Shrink your consciousness down, place it in your solar plexus, and let your body become, imaginarily, you're visualizing all this. Your body becomes the entire universe. You're at the tiniest, smallest point in the center of yourself. You're smaller than an atom even. And you're so small that your entire body and yourself has become the whole universe. And if you consider that a method of centering, yes, that's also will provide the same results. But again, you have to be able to do it that thoroughly, and it ain't easy, like all of these things. So with practice, yes, I'm convinced any one thing, if you practice it to the ultimate extreme and master it, can lead you to that.
So Robert says, can an empath detect what food fits best for him or her? Is there a way to find out, like the smell, color, of vibe it has? Yes.
And I have to go.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of like getting to know yourself and being in your body and so forth, and being able to read how your body reacts to the things that you're about to do. I certainly had that extreme experience when I did not know I was allergic to wheatgrass juice, and my body let me know in no uncertain terms that I shouldn't have it. That was like a danger, an extreme danger. It could have killed me if I'd taken a whole gulp of this stuff. So there's definitely a level where that can happen. But also, you can just pay attention to how you feel after you eat certain foods, and your body will give you feedback. The thing is your body, all the cells in your body have a form of rudimentary consciousness that you can get in touch with and communicate with in order to find out. And I think a lot of times people who are on a magical path tend to ignore their body for some reason. They're trying to rise above their body or something like that. I don't know. The way the stuff is written, it might give us the impression that that's what we're supposed to do, whether it's true or not. And being in your body and knowing who you are and how you feel about things will allow you to access that intuition about what's good for you to eat. That will give you that. And you can look at a food, not necessarily a specific thing about the food like you're asking, and but a feel, an energetic feel from the food, and whether it would be compatible with your body. There's some people that do, what do they call it, where they like take your arm and push it down, and your body tells you if it's good for you or not. I question that particular technique because depending on who's doing it, it can be their own personal prejudices about what you need and so forth. So following your own intuition and getting to know your own body is probably the best option when it comes to that, rather than have someone do that kind of a testing thing on you. And I think that they take their belief in that test to the extreme, where they tell you what vitamins you need, and and all this other stuff. And I prefer, when possible, to depend on scientific testing for some of that, where it's available, so that you have like a secondary confirmation of that information, never just going with one source of information about your health when it comes to it. So that's how I would answer that. So Beth says, I like to inhale light and love and exhaling any fears, doubts, and insecurities. And Robert says, I do the same technique, Beth, 10 or 20 times. Yeah, and if you're exhaling your fears, doubts, and insecurities, make sure you ground them into the earth, so that the earth can then take those things that aren't useful to you and then turn them into other things that are useful for the planet. Don't just put them out there. I call that psychic garbage, which I've had to clear out of more than one location. So you don't want to dump your fears and insecurities and so forth into the air, as it were, into the ether around you. You want to put it somewhere specific, and the best place to put it is in the ground and into the earth, and ground it out that way. And so that's my cautionary thing for newbies who might not know that, just in case. Ron says, I found some hollow reeds by the river. I plan to use some as wand bases. I can load many items into them, words on paper, herbs, tiny stones, etc. Sounds awesome. Carla says, I don't know where you're at, Robert, but don't eat fast food. Beth says, that's excellent, Robert. Teresa says, it's going to take all I have to not eat that last piece of pizza. Robert says, oh, I never eat processed food. Teresa says, I'm going to try that exercise, Ian. Robert says, I tend to be 80% plant-based, 20% animal-based food for now. Yeah, and, we sometimes need to have animal protein, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a choice that you can make. If you need it, you need it. And it annoys me when we get like extreme militant vegans who are mad at the people who actually eat meat. But anyway, try not to condemn anyone for whatever their food choices might be, depending on their circumstances and whatnot. Gabrielle says, we're fragments of God, but also the totality of God. We are fragments of God, but also the totality of God. I think that's what she means.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Jay says, at Gabrielle, like holograms. That's actually a good way of looking at it, because
actually it is. If if you understand what a hologram actually is, yeah.
Any small piece of a hologram contains the entire hologram.
Yeah.
And that's one of the theories of the holographic universe. Right. That's one of the ways.
Except less detail. The more you focus in on part of the hologram, you lose detail, but you have the whole thing still.
Yeah.
Sorry, not that that's relevant. It's just a little technical thing. I think holograms are cool, real ones.
Carla says, thank you, you guys. Is everything okay with you guys? I don't know how else to ask. Is something weighing heavy, sending so much high energy? No, I mean, we have some
pretty good
people that are going through some stuff, but everything is pretty good at the moment. So, nope, we're good. Thank you for asking. Teresa says, do you think an all-pervasive God can coexist with polytheism?
Sure, yeah. We just what we just said speaks to that, because each particular individual god or goddess you wish to deal with, you can consider as a particular specific aspect of the whole. God as everything is kind of hard to deal with. You can't really deal with everything at once. So you can look at each specific deity as being particular aspects of the one overall universal God that you can use for specific purposes according to the qualities and character of that deity. So yes, absolutely. It's my feeling on the matter. And I think you probably agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the ways I've described it too. Robert says, I eat mostly fruit over the last 3 weeks and almost no meat, and I feel like much better hydrated. Meat just takes too much water out of my body. Just be careful of having too much fruit, because you don't want to go totally fruitarian and end up with pancreatitis.
Yeah, like Steve
Jobs is what killed him.
What killed him, yeah.
It depends on your body
fruitarian.
system, I'm sure, but the pancreas has a hard time if there's too much just
Well, yeah,
sugar, natural sugar
it's like
even.
anything in the diet. Just don't overdo it.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing you can know about diet is just don't overdo any one thing. Keep
Yeah, even something
variety.
that's really good for you, water can kill you if you drink too much of it. So, balance, variety, always a good thing, in my opinion. Beth says, "Oh, yes, I do." And Carla says, "Oh, good. Then pretty much everything else is A-OK?" Yes, everything is A-OK. Beth says, "I have been craving cornbread, pinto beans, fresh onions, and peppers." Well, that sounds like a nice meal for you. I couldn't eat most of that, but the cornbread I could have, and the pinto beans, but not the onions and the peppers. Everyone's body is so different. Gabrielle says, "That makes sense about the hologram. Wow." Carla says, "Good." Gabrielle says, "The Kundalini gives me a headache sometimes. Is it supposed to stay raised and spinning around like a column of energy through the body? If I try to focus the energy to see light everywhere, I feel the two channels of energy like a helix, then it combines into one strong column of energy. I started working out and stretching so I can handle the energy." Well, there's three channels that go up your spine, so the lunar and solar channels cross in between the central channel and go back
Yeah,
and forth like a helix.
it's important, like everything, not to overdo it. As we learned from a guy named Gopi Krishna, he wrote a book. He like pushed his Kundalini hard and really pushed it and kind of forced things open a little bit, and then had some issues to deal with because he brought up more energy than his body was ready to handle. So if you start getting headaches or things, you should probably just try to slow it down, um, and let it go. Let it go at a nice speed. You want to let it happen and let yourself develop, but don't let it get too powerful. Don't overdo it. Don't over push it because it feels good because you're getting somewhere. Because that's basically what he did. He strained and really damaged his whole system by pushing it. He didn't really force it to start, unlike some people try to do, but he did. He didn't stop when he should have stopped. He should have stopped meditating, but he was getting good results and he got all excited and he kept pushing it and pushed it way too hard and caused himself some damage. So, other than the fact, keep it at a low enough level that doesn't cause you big headaches and things if you can manage it that way, and let it develop slowly, and your body will build up to be able to take it, but it has to adjust. You can't just open up to a giant blast of energy without your body becoming, adapted to it and ready for it.
So Ron says muscle testing or kinesiology is the name of the arm pushing you were talking about a few minutes ago. Yes. And I had a personal experience with that with a chiropractor who used it to decide where you needed to be adjusted. And I noticed that he was certain I had a specific vertebrae out. And so when he did the muscle testing, when he wanted a certain result, he pushed a lot harder on my arm, trying to force it down. And if it didn't go down, it upset him. So I know that there is that potential for the personal biases to get involved in it. So just warning. Carla says, "I agree with that 100%, Ian." Um, yeah, Gabrielle says, "I feel the two channels of energy." I already did that one because I skipped ahead. Robert says, "Peppers, I would turn into a dragon and spit fire all evening." I would be not just a dragon, but a very uncomfortable one with a lot of cramps.
And I love peppers and hot stuff.
And he loves peppers and hot stuff. Gabrielle says, "Yep, that's how I feel. It's like a helix, then one column cyclone. Trust me, I did not do this on purpose. If I focus on non spiritual things, maybe it'll stop, hopefully. This has been going on for 2 years. I'm amazed I can sleep." Yeah, I understand that. So, eating heavy food can help, like meat, for
Meat
example.
in particular, yeah.
It can help
slow it
slow
down.
down the energetic channels a little bit. And there was actually one of the swamis who at one point did. He started eating meat, and everybody was like shocked and dismayed because vegetarianism was the thing everybody did.
Also, I will point out an example, an ancient example. Now, this is so ancient we don't know that how much is true, but I think it has a semblance of reality to it. That Milarepa, who is a Tibetan, basically a Tibetan saint, a Tibetan master, he became one eventually. He lived in a cave and lived only off nettles. which caused him all kinds of health issues, of course, because of malnutrition and all that. And because he lived only off nettles, he absorbed so much chlorophyll he turned green, and so he'd start scaring people. That's kind of beside the point, but not really, because when he finally got the Kundalini awakening, he'd been trying for it for years and years, and he never succeeded until somebody came and they gave him an offering and they dropped off a bunch of meat, and he ate some meat, and it restored his health enough that the Kundalini then activated and healed him. So, um, you know, he was being a total vegetarian, of course, ridiculously limited by just eating nothing but nettles. But
That's an extremely limited diet.
yes, but still that idea. So moderation in everything, and that's what actually awakened his Kundalini and finalized his enlightenment, was actually getting meat because his body got too weak just being on vegetarian. So, not that there's anything wrong with vegetarian, as long as you provide your protein with peanuts and things and don't just stick to nettles,
Right.
or whatever.
So Gabrielle adds, if I focus on non-spiritual things, it'll stop, hopefully. This has been going on for 2 years. I'm amazed I can sleep. But yeah, the energy mostly flows pretty freely, just driving me nuts to feel this constantly. And I heard cardio can help, so I started swimming a lot. That's good. Gabrielle says, laugh out loud, green man. Teresa says, chlorophyll must be a witch thing, too. Yep, it's like, wow. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like each one of us is going to be a special case, no doubt about it. You can get a few things that are generally true, but then your own particular situation, you have to figure out how you're going to adjust to it. If you can do other things, it might help. Other activities. I think swimming would be a good one. I like swimming. I gotta get back to that. I thought maybe it was Martian myself, green man. Of course, there's also the God, the green man God, who would be the witch thing.
Because we know somebody I know somebody, we knew somebody. I
Turned
don't
himself
think
orange.
I don't think Siofra saw this, but yes, he took a bunch of beta carotene and turned himself orange by taking like lots and lots of it. Probably harmful to him.
Very harmful. It's a toxic overload.
It was very
on your
weird.
liver.
It was his idea was he wanted to blend in with like
Santeria, a group of people
yeah,
in Haiti. He was going to Haiti.
but it didn't really look like a tan at all. He just looked orange. It was very strange looking. Palms of his hands got all orange. Right. Anyway.
Robert says some masters were not at peak health and yet they lived to be 100 years. It has to do with the moral. A good moral is key and can do miracles.
That's true. Also, the asceticism, they found that starvation diets will extend your lifetime.
It lowers your metabolism.
It doesn't make life as any
that is fun, yeah.
But it extends your telomeres and makes you live longer. Probably not quite a starvation diet, but just being very thin. You don't want to be malnourished totally,
right.
But yeah.
Well, I think the ideal is to be able to be healthy and evolve spiritually. You shouldn't have to get rid of one in order to accomplish the other. Right. Either one. So, I don't think it has to be a fast rule that in order to be able to be spiritually evolved or enlightened or whatever, that you have to destroy or ignore the physical body. I think you can have both.
Not at all, yeah. Barden is actually promotes exactly the opposite. You need to take care of your body and treat it right.
Yeah.
It's your friend,
Yeah, and it's the house for your spirit. You want it to work. So Carla says, I play loud rock and roll and dance, which is good exercise and good distraction from things.
I don't dance so much, but I play loud rock and roll.
Gabrielle says, but it has helped me to not disassociate as much because of the constant body sensations. So maybe it's a good thing for integration. And Robert says, true, Gabrielle. Gabrielle says, I heard the only reason why people feel the Kundalini is because of inner resistance. Live longer and sadder. Ron says, so cool. I learned so much just from listening to your chats. Thanks again. By the way, hello, Ian. I've not greeted you before.
Well, thank you. Hello to you, too.
Robert says, Siofra, are there periods of your life where you didn't use crystals and gemstones at all? Well, there's periods of time when I use them more actively, but I've always had them around. So I guess yes. I mean, but I've always been attracted to stones. When I buy myself something, I mean, my first pentagram had a moonstone in it. The first piece of jewelry I bought myself after I came back from Canada was a phoenix with an amethyst in it. I'm always attracted to things that have colored stones. When I was younger and we lived around DC, I was in the Girl Scouts, and I was a tour guide kind of thing at the Natural History Museum at the Smithsonian Institute, where they have all of the wonderful, large, amazing gemstones of the world, including the Hope Diamond. And I would go through and see like the largest star ruby they had and the biggest crystal ball that Jean Dixon gave them. And I mean, so I've always been attracted to the geological, things. Um, but I mean, consciously working with crystals and so forth, it's like a different kind of phase, and I go through different phases with that. Right now, I'm wearing my tiger eye, which just helps to maintain my spirit, body, integrity, energy. I'm wearing a piece of kyanite that my daughter gave me, and that helps to get positive energy into me. And I'm wearing some amethysts, which connect me to the amethyst crystal web. And amethysts are just very peaceful and calming, energetically, and so forth. And so I have something for protection, something for energizing, something for, I don't know exactly what to call it, but to help with my energetic body and so forth. So I guess this one's both energetic and physical body that it helps with. Barbara says, well, on your body, I mean. No, I think I've always been wearing them. Gabrielle says, you mean like how people put stones on their foreheads? Robert? I do that too. Carla says, I would love a crystal ball. The painting is a mystic gazing into a crystal ball. Ooh, fun. Crystal balls are neat. I have several. I have some real rock crystal balls, and then I have the first one that I ever got, which was actually a glass ball. But it still worked as a crystal ball because I didn't know it wasn't supposed to work. Isn't that funny? I mean, you can use pretty much anything as a focus for divination. And if you think it's going to help you focus, then it will work. That's kind of the way it goes. And it worked for me, so I used it for many, many years. Just funny. So Carla says, I would love, Ron says, only 7 likes? Come on, people, show some love. Please, and thank you. Well, I had a lot of hearts. I think hearts are good. Apparently that made somebody leave. They didn't like that comment. We're being too aggressive here. Who knows? Maybe they just had something better to do. Oh, yes, glass is good. Yes, glass is very good. Robert says, Siofra, is there a special food we can take and makes us more dream at night? Mugwort tea.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
You can also make a scrying tea out of parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. I don't know that would help you dream, though. So, yes. That says, Ron, I always hit the like button before entering the chat. Gabrielle says, laugh out loud. It's like, yeah. People come, people go. It's like the way it works. Everyone's got their things they have to do. But yeah, thank you, Ron. We appreciate the wanting to get us some loves and likes. Meow Meow says, hello. Hi, Meow Meow. I don't think I've seen Meow Meow here before. So welcome, and if you're an old person with a new name, welcome anyway.
I do remember that name because we're cat fans ourselves.
Yes, we have a Meow Meow.
Cat and a bunny.
A cat and a bunny. Carla says, same, Beth. Gabrielle says, my brain is making enough DMT as it is. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you do not need. And same here. It's like I cannot take melatonin because I already have enough serotonin in my brain And melatonin, I have a bad reaction to it because I overdose on the serotonin part and it gives me horrific nightmares. So, like I said, everybody's body and brain is different, so you do what works for you. And you could be allergic to mugwort, so be careful the first time you take it if you haven't taken it before. Anyone can be allergic to anything.
Yeah.
Beth says, Carla, you can always use a bowl of water. Yes, for scrying. Reflection, or a mirror, or a piece of glass, anything. It's just like whatever can bring you into that state of receptivity.
Yeah, and you can literally use anything. Barden used to use a cup of coffee to be convenient, so he would be sitting
Surreptitious?
surreptitious, sitting in a cafe or something and want to do some scrying. He just scry in his cup of coffee.
And no one will know. He's just gazing into a cup.
So we have read, yep.
Yeah. Gabrielle says, oh no, yeah, I'm sensitive to substances and medications. Carla says, that would be fun. Ron says, hope I didn't seem too pushy. Oops. No, I don't think I was making a joke. You never know why people come and go, so not to worry. Robert says, me too, Gabrielle. Veggies also. Lots of bad reaction. Oh, I'll try Marwin tea. I think it's mugwort. You want to put that down? It's not, I don't know what Marwin is.
Yeah.
Carlos says, water and coffee scrying. Jesus says, or Epsom salt with alcohol for a smokeless fire you can scry with.
This fire scrying is a whole other deal. I haven't even played with that.
Oh, I have.
I know that they do that in India.
I love gazing into a fire, and I like it. I like it with the thing I find interesting about fire gazing is that when your eyes shift into a more clairvoyant realm, the fire turns green. And everyone in my family and Ian can see the green flames. If we gaze at a fire, at some point it changes and shifts into the green spectrum. And you tell that to the average person, they're like, yeah, well, you just put something in the fire to make it look green. I'm like, no, it's just a regular fire. It had no green in it, doesn't have any copper in it or whatever that makes it look green when they're doing fireworks, etc. Just a plain old wood. But when you shift your sight, there's certain things that can happen. And with fire, you see the green flames. With the sky, I see what I call the gray popcorn with a clear sky. It's like all of a sudden it looks like there's these gray clouds that like look little puffy things that aren't there. And I shift my eyes back and there's no clouds, so I know that it's a different kind of vision. So it's interesting to get used to allowing your brain to see things, not just the physical itself, but also the energetic behind it. So, and Carlos says, scrying. Nobody's crying. I like reading the flames. Teresa says, I like fire scrying and also smoke scrying. Gabrielle says, wow. Carla says, lizard. Green. Gabrielle says, green flames. That's cool. Yeah, if you haven't seen them, I recommend trying because it's interesting. You just do like you do with a scrying tool of any kind. You sort of unfocus and soften your eyes, and then it just pops right in. Carla says, I'm in the spiritual sense, not reptilian. Beth says, I'm feeling the need and it's activated. Yo, cook, clean for those I love. I'm playing fall music, ambience. I roll with it. Yeah, well, definitely the energy is starting to shift. And I think that we're going to end up with a new moon on equinox this year. So that'd be good energy for the shifting. Carla says, in the spiritual sense, not I'm. I'm in the spiritual sense, not reptilian. Okay, gotcha. All right. I love these things. So Teresa says, I saw green flames after a while of staring at the candle flame, but it only happened once. I was in an altered state. Yeah, that's one of the things that you can tell you're in an altered state with. Robert says, 2 dreams I had, and it was me holding a wand using green fluorite. I now have a couple of them, still waiting to know what it is for. Isn't it interesting? Because that often happens to me. I have things sometimes I build things, make things, and I'm not sure what their purpose is for a period of time. I was talking about that this morning. It's like a time flux. Time is not really linear, and when you have those experiences, sometimes that helps to give you a more of a real life experience of the fact that something you're doing in the future that isn't really in the future, since time is not real, bleeds back into your present and inspires you to do a specific thing or pick up a certain item or whatever. Like when I made all my wands, for most of them, I already had everything I needed to construct them. And I did not know what they were for. I just saw something and I thought, I'm going to need that, and picked it up. And so they were just all there waiting when it suddenly popped in my head that what I needed to do. And then I thought, well, I'm going to make this kind of a wand, and then I have all these things here. It's like all the items I needed and required to construct were already there in my house. And so I think that that is, yeah, it's an interesting thing to notice that. And you'll figure out what it's for when it's time. It could be that you won't figure this out for several years, or it won't come to you for that long. You never know, but don't worry about it. Carla says, that should be fun. New moon on equinox. Gabrielle says, I've modified the lesser banishing to include the elemental kings and for cross of light part using Chit, Ananda, Shakti, Om.
Sounds cool.
Carla says, definitely looking forward to the full moon. Yeah, that's happening in like about a week and a half or so. It actually arrived?
Looks like it, yeah.
All right. We had something coming from Amazon that was going to arrive today, and most of the time they don't get here. Apparently it did come.
Yeah,
Yay.
like 3 other packages they said were delivered and got delivered to the wrong house, apparently, and then nobody
And then
ever
it didn't
liked
come here, but yay. Tried not to have anything arrive on a Sunday because of that. And Gabrielle says, using Hindu invocations in it, East Air, Vayu, South Fire, Agni, West Water, Varuna, North Earth, Prithvi. If I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
To get the Christian language out of it. Yeah, and I understand that. That's why I use Peralta.
And that's 100% valid.
Yeah, I use Peralta and Jin and Nexa and Gob, because they're ancient names for the elements in the Western tradition. Been around for quite a while. Beth says the energy shift is very strong, but it feels cozy. Baking butternut bread, sourdough bread feels great. Yum. Carla says, get ready for that energetic shift. Teresa, it's coming in fast. Oh, Teresa says that the new moon equinox is her birthday. Her birthday's the next day. Cool. Be a good time to start. But is it all that you imagined it would be?
Well, I don't know. I have to try and see.
See if it works.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I expected.
All right. Gabrielle says it felt really good to use the Hindu and Peralta and Jin and Peralta and Gob too. Yeah, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to get out of the Christian symbolism.
I would have only this recommendation that you choose one and then stick with that one, because the more times you repeat it using the same
The stronger it
method,
gets.
the stronger it'll get, yeah.
Yeah.
If you change them, then you'll have to sort of be reinventing the wheel a little bit each time. So pick whichever, pantheon or whatever you want to use, and then kind of stick with it.
Yep.
But, yeah.
So Ron says, wand question, should I finish crafting one wand before I begin another, or does it matter?
Nope.
Just go as the items speak to me. I think that would be the answer. Go as the
Yep.
items speak to you. I mean, because like when I was making my planetary wands, I made a choice to only work on that wand on its day of the week. So I made all 7 planetary wands. And so the solar wand I worked on Sundays and throughout the time of year where the sun was ascendant. Lunar wand was on Mondays and, during the night during the different phases of the moon to charge it up, that kind of thing. And that way I'm like connecting the tool that I'm creating to that very specific type of energy. So my Mercury wand isn't going to do things that a solar wand's going to do, or that a Venusian wand is going to do. It's going to be very specific to that type of energy that it represents. So you could theoretically have more than one wand you're making if you're doing it on different days at different times or whatever, or just because you're in the right energetic frame of mind to work on it, because you really don't want to work on anything magical if you are going through a really intense emotional time and it's going to interfere with the connection that you're making with the object.
Yeah, you need to keep a certain amount of purity about it and try to stay sort of single-minded while you're working with it. Otherwise, that stuff can get all in there and get mixed up with it.
That can really happen like with food, with cooking, because if you cook angry, you sort of spoil the food. It may still have the nutritional value, but it's not going to have that same helpful, energetic value that it could have. So I like that movie, like Water for Chocolate, because they really get into that, and it's definitely true. So Gabrielle says, okay, I'll maybe try the Hindu for a while. It seems to resonate with me more. Beth says, hey guys, let's hit the heart at the same time. Apparently they're doing a lot of hearts, I was noticing.
Yep.
Yeah. Carla says, doing a Shakti dance, Gabrielle? Doing the Shakti dance? Gabrielle says, hearts and fairies. Do a Shakti power dance, sigh. Carla's having trouble with her autocorrect. Autocorrect can be very annoying, can't it? Yeah, I think now I'm a lot more aware of how my energy can affect the things that I'm doing that way. And I don't know, it's like, I'm sure all of us have had that some situation where we're trying to do something and it's like, it's not working. It's like, it's falling apart, or it won't go together, or we're clumsy, or, we're losing things, or what have you. And, that can be a signal to, like, center focus and be present, or to put it aside and leave it for another time when you're in a better frame of mind to work on it. You're just not compatible with that particular energy right then. And energy keeps on changing. Robert says, energy shift again. We keep having them all throughout the year. It's one thing, it's constantly changing, going through the seasons, and life is like that. It's like, and nothing ever stays the same. Learning how to be okay with the shifting energy and adapting to it seems like a good thing. So Shay says, great movie, like Water for Chocolate, yes. Carla says, laugh my A off. Gabrielle says, I take lots of naps. The Kundalini is a lot to manage. Carla says, I'm sitting here raising my hand. And Teresa says, let's all hit the surprise emoji at the same time now. And Carla says, I'm not compatible with my keyboard. Robert says, I miss the 70s energy. Beth says, this is a big shift and I'm here for it. And Gabrielle says, knowing I'm eternal is scary sometimes to contemplate, but I don't think too much and I just exist. Then I feel okay. They're having fun with these buttons. Oh, now what's that one? Was that rainbows that went by or something? Flowers? Is that what that is?
There's ice cream cones.
Is that ice cream cones with sprinkles on them? Robert says, and a little bit of 80s energy also. Yep, you guys are just having a blast there. Viral rainbow flowers. Oh, okay. It is flowers and with rainbows.
So it is, okay.
Not an ice cream cone.
Go ahead, yeah.
Also ice cream cones. So Carla says 70s and 80s energy is so missed. I'm sure all of us missed some of the energy from our youth. Mine was way farther than that. I was definitely the 60s and early 70s, I guess. It was more that. Festivities. And yes. Yay. We like festivities. Joy is so much nicer than. Ugh. Yep. So I guess tomorrow is Rabbit Day, so be ready. First of the month. Carla says, we really need some 60s energy right now. Yeah, I'd like to know what happened to it. All those people that were around in the 60s turned into a-holes big time. Just like, they forgot about the whole everyone's brother, sister, love, and stuff like that. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah, well, now they're actively fighting against it. There's a lot of music from that time period that I like.
Yeah, me too. Yep. Robert says, I guess I'm a little bit of a hippie myself, haha. Carla says, I'm a lot of bit hippie. Well, apparently I've been accused of being a hippie, so there. Carla says, yuppies. Gabriella says, laugh out loud. Gus says, the 70s and 60s were awesome, all but the trauma. Yeah. Teresa says, too many hard drugs is what wrecked the 60s. Well, that's true. That's when I did a lot of drugs, actually. And then I had to recover from it and become sane again, so it was sort of a bit of a backwards movement there for a bit. Ron says, having beets and green beans for dinner. I'll send that energy to all of you that want some. Ooh, okay, thank you. Gabrielle says, yep, a lot of boomers were flaky. Carla says, music is the answer. Robert says, I won't miss the smartphones from our time. I just have a flip phone. Well, I remember the time when you didn't even have an answering machine. The universe had to work really hard to get a hold of you. It was like,
Yeah, well, it wasn't all that long ago. We moved over here and there was no cell service over here, and we had to wait years to get cell service after we moved.
yeah, we got one of the first computers after we moved over here. One of the first laptops.
I couldn't do without the computer, though.
Not at this
Computer
point.
and the internet nowadays. Too much raw information available at your fingertips, and I absolutely love that. You just have to have the filter to sort out the garbage from the good stuff.
Teresa says, I did like the peace and love things, though. I enjoyed the tail end of the 60s. Robert says, green? They make me fart. Green beans. Ah.
Yeah, I like a lot of the 60s stuff, though. The things that came out in the music, the ideals, even if they weren't completely lived out, I really liked the ideals and the songs about those ideals back then and a lot of that music.
Yeah, I was singing in my kitchen the other day, and I was singing, last night I had the strangest dream, and it made me cry. That was a song that came out somewhere during that time.
I like all those old ones like uh, Crystal Blues, Persuasion, and things like that.
What have they done to the rain?
Yeah.
Yes, The Cat in the Cradle, the old folk songs.
Then there's got the old Fogerty stuff like who'll Stop the Rain, which isn't exactly, it isn't peace and love music, but it's good music from back then.
Well, What Have They
anyway.
Done to the Rain is more about nuclear war and Holocaust than it is about peace, but yes.
Well, yeah, no, talk about Fogerty stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, he did a lot of that too. There's a lot of war stuff.
And of course, Dylan,
yeah,
poet of our time. Gabrielle says the music was good. Shay says, Ian, so true about having all that information at our fingertips. I used to make paper lists of the things I needed to look up at my local library.
Of course, I used to have the problem that the local library was so far away, and when I was a kid, of course, I had no,
transportation.
No way to access that information. It took a big deal for me to get transportation to the library as a kid, and
your mother didn't want you to go.
they didn't have any bus systems or anything at the time, so yeah.
Yep. So Robert says we want to follow, but we can also try to influence and or create. Yeah, and I think that human creation is important. I've seen some disturbing articles of late about how some AI has influenced people to do some pretty terrible things to others and to themselves. And so, yeah, making our own decisions and not depending upon some program to tell us what to do without checking in. It's like the reality check has gotten all messed up. That's one of the reasons for having a group when you're doing magic is so that you can reality check each other. So if like suddenly you're going down a pathway, spiral into some alternate dimension, then you're not going to be able to find your way back without help. Someone who's in a group with you can stop you before you get too far and pull you back over. It's like, hey, come on. There's more than just that. So get back over here and don't forget the rest of us. But yeah. Gabrielle says, have you guys heard of the Rainbow people? They were passing through our area last year. Oh, the Rainbow family? Yes. I've had encounters with them. They were at, Ian and I encountered them when we went to Mount Shasta one year, the Panther Meadows, and had a sweat lodge with Charlie Tom and his group. And they were there and incredibly disrespectful of the ritual, the environment, not paying attention to any of the standard considerations that you give someone else's culture by not stepping on their toes. They're lighting their cigarettes off the sacred fire and going to the bathroom in the woods, like right by the sweat
Yeah,
lodge.
they didn't have any desire to learn what was respectful for the ritual. I mean,
No.
and that was the issue. It wouldn't take it wouldn't doesn't take much to be respectful for an open ritual like that, and I felt very privileged to be invited to be there during it, and you know, I don't know how you could not be respectful enough to at least learn
And I had
what not to do.
exactly the same experience when they came to the medicine wheel one year. They showed up at the medicine wheel ceremony, and it's like their attitude was basically, rules don't apply to us, we're special. So you guys can have your rules, but we don't have to follow them because they don't apply to us. And, you know, I agree on the one hand that artificial rules can be questioned and so forth, but if you're participating in someone else's event and
You
in
need
their
to have
culture,
respect for them. That's
it's
right.
just common courtesy and respect to follow their rules. And if you feel you can't, you shouldn't go. So I haven't had good
I agree
experiences with the
completely.
Rainbow family in that sense. I'm sure there's lots of different individuals in there though. Carla says Moon Dance and Into the Mystic give me chills to this day. Not pleased with him, but those songs.
I don't know anything about him, but I like some of his music. He's got a lot of too Christian stuff for me too. But
Carla says card catalog Shay. Gabrielle says, yeah, Rainbow Family, haha. Shay says, Carla, yes. Carla says, Shay, love and smiles. Gabrielle says, exactly. Beth says, I've been in circles like that, so disrespectful.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to paint. That's the only encounter I've ever had with them, and don't want to throw everybody into the same boat. But that was certainly the case with the group that was there at the sweat.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, inside the sweat, one of the people in the sweat threw something on the stones. And our sweat leader was very upset because, the sweat leader is the one who's responsible for the safety and spiritual
And the
energy and
in
stuff
there,
of
yeah.
everyone in that sweat lodge. They're doing it, they're the facilitator for all of that energy. And to have somebody come in and just toss something he doesn't know what it is was very upsetting. And it changed the entire energy of the sweat. And it became, it's hard to describe, but it was a very packed sweat. They packed in about 40 people into this, and so people were standing behind you and leaning over you and stuff because it's got, the short walls. And this guy who was sweating on me, when this happened, his sweat became acidic. It was like it was hurting when it dripped on me. And I thought that was interesting because that had never happened before. And then the sweat leader stopped what was going on and then did some prayer songs. We did not know what he was singing. He was singing in his own language, and he just did a round of these songs and changed the energy. And by the time he was finished, the sweat wasn't painful on my body when somebody dripped on me anymore. So I was very impressed with this sweat leader's ability to take that. Of course, the guy apologized and said he didn't mean to be disrespectful. And the guy's like, don't do that again.
Yeah, and I'm sure he didn't realize. I mean, nobody intended anything bad, but it was just they should have taken the time to find out. You know, you go poking. It seems like common sense. Somebody else is running a ritual. You don't go poking in the middle of it, and in the middle of what they're doing, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. It seems sort of self-evident to me, but
Well, I've seen other people who were disrespectful, not just the Rainbow family. There was a guy at the very first of the 4 weekends I went to that was there he was very confrontational and thought he knew a lot apparently, and he was pretty proud of how he knew other things and was confronting the natives with how they were doing their stuff and why are they doing it this way and so forth. So he didn't participate. He wasn't there to learn and become a part of the energy that they were presenting to us. He was there to disrupt it and I found him quite annoying.
Well, that's it. If you think you know better, that's okay. Keep it to yourself because maybe you do and maybe you don't, but it's still disrespectful to the people there.
Well, yeah, and if you're really uncomfortable with what they're doing, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
participating in it. That's pretty much it. So Beth says, I've been in circles like that, so disrespectful. Carlos says, ooh, there's the answer. Robert says, green fluoride helps releasing old habits and limiting patterns. I guess it applies for me now. I have some green fluoride bracelet right now that I like, and it's also helped for inner strength, I think. Carlos says, I only know those two songs by him. Beth
Yeah,
says, it's just common decency.
he's got a few more decent songs, but a lot of his stuff, he's got some stuff I like a lot, but a lot of it also I don't like. So it's
Yeah.
50-50.
Shay says, Siofra, what an
And
important
Morrison.
story about the acidic sweat and then the sweat leader changing the energy back. Thank you. You're welcome. I mean, experience is the thing that teaches me the most. It's like paying attention to what's happening around me and in me and so forth when I have these experiences. And that's how I learn. I learned how not to treat people because of how people treated me. And it's like one of those things. It's like I internalized the experience and thought, well, that really sucked. I mean, that was a terrible thing that that person just did to me, and it made me feel awful, or it hurt me, or whatever. And I don't want anyone else to feel this way, so I'm not going to do this to anyone else. And so I really incorporated those lessons very physically, I think, when they happened to me. And it just surprises me that people don't. Other people don't. You know, they get like, well, they did this to me, so I'm not going to, now I'm going to do that to a bunch of other people I don't know and get back at the person who did this to me who's not here. So whatever, makes no sense to me, but you know, I baffle easily when it comes to people's behavior. There's a lot about it that I don't understand. But anyway, yeah,
Boy, I was sure. Yes, me.
you did. I handed you one.
Thought so.
Yeah.
Apparently, my allergies are just extra powerful today.
I guess so. So Gabrielle says, when people pass on, will they be with their actual family or just alone with an apparition of the version of the family in their head? A good question. It doesn't matter because whatever they experience is going to be what they think is happening. I mean, whether it's their actual family or a created version of their family to make them feel comfortable and other spirits are taking on those roles in order to make them feel secure and safe, it helps them in the process. And I don't know the actual answer. It's like, it's a matter of belief. It's certainly what I've seen when I've helped cross spirits over. I've seen them go, have family members come to get them. I actually had one time I crossed over one spirit, and the grandfather of the woman whose place I was at crossed back over here to become a member of their guardian family, like a spirit guardian angel that's a relative that's crossed over and gone through the whole process. So that was unexpected and kind of interesting that I did not know that could happen. That's one of the things I like about that kind of stuff. I'm always surprised by what takes place. But that's a human definition, trying to figure it out. If you're crossed over and you're there, if they feel like and look like your Earth family, then that's what they are, regardless of whether it's true or not. So try not to worry about that. Carla says, listening while folding clothes. Teresa says, I hope the spirits don't pretend to be family members. Thank you very much. Robert says, we die and leave our body. We go to the astral realm. Then we go to the real afterlife. Is this it? Well,
Depends on who you listen to.
Right, and it depends on what's going on in the life that you just left and all sorts of things. I mean, yeah. Ariel says, God, that's scary to think about. No, it's not. They have your best interests at heart. Don't worry about it. Whether they're your real family or not, it's good. It's, yeah, try not to worry about it. Gabrielle says, I'm just hallucinating my whole existence, probably.
Well, one thing everybody needs to think about in these kind of discussions that um, your perspective changes when you're not on Earth. So once your physical body has died and you go on, you're not necessarily looking at things and feeling things the same way as you did when you were alive. Your perspective changes, for one thing. If you're in the astral realm, you're not limited by space, so now you can travel anywhere in a blink of an eye, for example, that kind of thing. So your perspective changes as far as family and those types of things go. I think it's a mistake to get too caught up in the idea of having the afterlife be the same as our physical life. You know what I mean? Putting too much physicality into it that's not necessarily there. So I don't think you necessarily think of your family and things exactly the same way once you're there on the astral plane only. So just to temper the thought process a little bit, keep that in mind until I don't I'm not developed enough to have an actual answer to tell people myself either.
So Gabrielle says, when I see spiritually while I'm alive, everything is white light. We're in a pool of light already. This is true. And Gabrielle says, laugh out loud, Siofra. I feel like I'm dying before I die. Beth says, Siofra, did you get a little flush? Yes, I'm hot. It's warm in here, even with the windows open.
Yeah, it actually is.
So yes, I got a little bit of sheen of sweat on me, so I'm doing pretty good. And my temperature is better. I've started taking vitamin B6. I had some really weird results with my metabolic test. They were abnormal, and I did a lot of research to try to figure out, what can cause these abnormal results that aren't like the big giant things like cancer and kidney failure and whatnot, which I know I don't have. And B6 deficiency was one of them. So I got some, moderate dose, not insane amount. Because I also don't want to OD on it, and I've been taking it, and it has helped to stabilize my body temperature. I'm now having days where I don't go below 96. So I'm very excited about the possibility. So I'm warmer. Yeah. Barbara says, well, Gabrielle, I feel the same way. After all, some cells in our body die every day. Teresa says, question, is it advisable to do trance work while alone, or should others be around for safety, or am I overthinking this?
You're probably overthinking it. My opinion. I don't think there's any problem with doing it alone. In general, assuming you're not running into like really obnoxious things or something, um, there are some protective things built in. Like if you're really astral traveling, the silver cord idea, um, so having somebody around could actually be more dangerous in some cases. If you were fully astral traveling to the point where your body stops breathing, which is a state, if somebody is astral traveling fully with full consciousness, they could reach that state. And in that state, then the only thing that's really sustaining your life is the silver cord. And if your body gets touched, it could potentially disrupt it and cause a problem. Now, I would say that in 99.9% of the cases, that's not the case because people never achieve that fullness of travel so that they stop breathing physically. But you have to be breathing astrally to keep your astral alive.
Yeah, and the only reason for not doing trance work alone would be if you're worried that you're going to end up channeling something that's not pleasant.
Yeah, or something like that. Something you can't get out of, and it's really not, in my opinion, much of a concern because most people aren't astral traveling anyway. They're mental traveling and think they're astral traveling for one. So it's much less dangerous mental travel, and you still, you can see everything. You get the full freedom. Everything you think of with astral traveling, you travel in an instant and all that. Um, so I think trance work is fine alone, but you don't worry about your own fears, your own fears, are probably your biggest problem, because if if you have a lot of fears when you're doing it, you could potentially create elementals or larvae to harass you. But yeah, in general, uh, it's not a big deal to worry about. That's my opinion. Sorry,
Yeah.
it took a long time to get around to that, but kind of thinking while I'm talking, you know.
So Gabrielle says, my friend says, ladies don't sweat, we glisten. Carla says, that's awesome. About my temperature. Gabrielle says, I found out that I'm a natural channeler, so I tell spirits no having a sit down without my permission. Very good. Teresa says, so theoretically then my cat could kill me by jumping on me?
Well, not all that. Again, it's number one. It's pretty unlikely that anybody that you reach that state to start with. You'd have to know about it if you did it. But then, not so. Your cat is much smaller, so it would have a much smaller effect than a human touching you. So that kind of thing. I mean,
And cats are magic, so
yeah,
they probably
and
know
generally, unless you purposely breathe in the astral and get your astral body breathing on purpose, you're not likely to have any danger of that sort. That's a, that's a, yeah. And at that point, you'd be advanced enough to know.
whether or not it was a good idea
Yeah, so
or
don't
even
worry.
necessary.
Generally, don't worry about it.
Gabrielle says, I just have to work on grounding all the time. I don't want to channel anything. And that's a perfectly good thing to do. Teresa says, thanks for that answer. Thank you for opening up that other window. That helps a little bit.
I will say that I cannot achieve that state. I cannot achieve that state of astral travel where I can stop breathing in my body and start breathing in the astral. I've been doing this for many years and I can't achieve that. So,
Star says, hello, with lots of stars. Hi, Star. If you have a question, ask it now. We've only got 10 minutes. Welcome. I like your star. Star. Looks pretty cool. I saw somebody who made like a plate, a metal plate that had the pentagram with the elemental symbols around them, which was pretty cool. I saw that this morning. Gabrielle says, when I went traveling once, I got back in my body and it created a ripple of energy that ticked off the spirits around me. Well, isn't that just too bad? They have to adjust. Robert says, is it true that some empaths can channel all the time without realizing it? Well, it depends on what you mean by channel. Like,
yeah.
it is true that a lot of extreme empaths don't have the training that they need in order to be able to tell the difference between their own feelings and other people's feelings.
Yeah, so
And when
in
they
that
have
sense,
that
yeah.
issue, then they are like channeling everyone else around them. And I used to do that when I was younger. I would adapt. I mean, my behavior, my voice, even my appearance would change sometimes, depending on who was in the room and what they were feeling and experiencing. And it can be difficult to tell the difference between you and other.
Yeah, that's where you need to really have some insight into yourself and do some self uh, observation, really some self observation, so that you can tell the difference. Because I certainly have a lot of that, especially if it's something like somebody I knew in the past and they haven't known me since I've changed. That type of thing can really affect me to act like I did in the past, even though I've changed nowadays. So I'm still a certain amount sensitive to other people's thoughts about me. Sometimes that's a good thing because it makes me alert and aware of things, but other times if I'm not alert enough to catch that it's coming from outside, I'll think it's my own thoughts or feelings and whatever, and I'm still practicing on that.
So Gabrielle says, the air in my place looked like clear jello. Star says, how are you? We're doing pretty well. We had some birthdays and yeah, we're doing good. Jen says, hello everyone. Happy birthday, Ian, and the rest of the family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Gabrielle says, it freaked me out. I didn't do it on purpose. And yeah, I feel like I'm channeling other people all the time. I hate it. That's why I stay alone a lot, which is good because that allows you to get to know who you are. When I lived up north, that was what really helped me a lot. Being the nearest neighbor was more than a mile away. And even at that, I could feel them. I still knew what was going on, but there were fewer people. And it gave me enough of a break and enough nature around me that I started really becoming acquainted with me, which was very useful. Robert says, me too, Gabrielle. And I think that, a lot of sensitives need to have that time alone in order to recharge and recenter and get back to who they are and so forth, and not feel so completely overwhelmed by other people.
Well, it's good for everybody, but
Yeah,
especially for
but
empaths.
especially for empaths. And it's like, I can be really super active and energetic and communicative and so forth, and then I have to take a break and just not. And that's me taking care of me. Doesn't mean I'm mad at anybody or anything. It's just, my system of self care or what have you. And yeah, so Gabrielle says, Robert Love Star says, happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the happy birthdays today, everybody.
Yes. It's really strange that I have a son and a daughter and a husband who is not related to my son and my daughter, who all have a birthday in the same week. And then my sister married someone who has the exact same birthday as my husband, who is 2 years older than him. So,
Yep.
and it's just very
A
interesting
lot of
how
August birthdays.
a lot of August birthdays, and then my daughter is with someone whose birthday is the day after her birthday, so it falls in the middle. So the 22nd, the 23rd, the 28th, and the 29th all have birthdays on them in the family. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then, of course, mine is all by itself over in January, so I get
But
all
you're
the
a
attention.
Capricorn, so it's still another Earth sign.
It
So.
is another Earth sign,
Of
yes,
course,
it
I
is.
think Jade's isn't Jade.
She's a Leo.
Yeah, she's a Leo.
Yeah, you
just
and my son are both
Virgos.
Virgos. My daughter is a Leo, and she's just, we're talking within 7 minutes of being a Virgo. She was born at like 5 or maybe 8 minutes, 5:22 a.m. when she was born, and at 5:30, if she'd born at 5:30 or after, she would have been a Virgo. But she was determined to be a Leo. She got right in under the wire. So yes. Jen says, Siofra, have you gotten any more premonitions about what is happening in our country? Any inklings of how much longer we have to endure? Nothing good. I haven't really gotten any good. Yeah. I still see pretty much the same as I saw before. Nothing has really changed for the better at this point that I've been aware of. And of course, a lot of times I'm looking out for me and mine and so forth as far as it goes. But we all have to just be paying attention. And I think things will still continue to get worse before they get better. I don't think we're out of this cycle yet. I keep hoping I'm wrong, and I want to be wrong. So if I'm wrong, yay. So there you go. So Beth says happy birthday. Gabrielle says happy birthday. And I have a lot of August birthdays too. Jen says so many Virgos. Yay, mine is Tuesday. Congratulations. Yeah, I have a sister was born on the 6th, so she's a Virgo as well. She's not the sister we talk to though in particular. She doesn't talk to us. We have a parting of philosophy when it comes to where things are. Gabrielle says that's cute. Jen says thank you. And Gabrielle says, what about the age of Aquarius?
I like that song.
It's a nice song. I think it's projecting a lot of positivity into the future that may not happen the way they envisioned.
Yeah. Well,
The idea that all of a sudden, bam, everybody's going to become smart overnight and realize how stupid it is to fight and kill each other.
no,
And
I think our current government shows that to be false.
yes. So Beth says, yes, things are going to get worse, unfortunately. Gabrielle says, a lot of people are saying we're in the age of Aquarius. If it's not working for us, it doesn't matter what age we're in. We still have to do the work. Can't depend upon it. Just got to do the work.
The Hindus say we're in the age of Kali Yuga.
Ooh, that sounds a lot more terrifying.
Yep.
Carla says, happy birthday, Jen. Teresa says, how do you think the midterms will go? I'm hopeful that the midterms will go better, but that could be just that, projecting positivity, which I am, I'm optimist regardless of all evidence to the contrary. So in our family, my father once told us a story about an optimist and a pessimist. And it's a little bit off color and we're almost out of time, but I'm going to tell you this story because it's a perfect way to explain what the difference is. So this father has two sons, let's say, two children. And one of them is an optimist and one of them is a pessimist. And he's worried about both of them because they're not very balanced. And so he decides that he is going to fix them. So the first thing he does is he's going to deal with the pessimist, and he takes a room and he fills it with everything a boy of his age would love, whatever it happens to be, whatever's popular or what have you. And he fills the room with all these toys and these items and so forth. And he puts the child in the room with all these wonders, and he leaves him in there for the day. And he comes back figuring he's fixed the kid. And he opens the door, and the kid is sitting in the middle of the room, all slumped over and miserable. And he says, "What's wrong? Why are you sitting there like that? You have all this wonderful stuff you could play with." He says, "Well, I'm sure if I touched any of them, they would break." So that would be the pessimist.
That's been
So
related
then,
to me. I break everything.
yeah, well,
Sorry.
not because you're a pessimist, though.
No.
That's a different issue. So then he figures, okay, fine, that didn't work. I know I can fix the optimist. There's no way that this is going to fail. So he fills a room with horse manure, and he puts the optimist in the room with the horse manure. And he leaves him in there, and he comes back, and the kid is in there. He's laughing. He's throwing the horse manure all over. He's digging in it and so forth. And his father says, "What are you doing? How can you be happy and having a good time in a room full of this stuff?" And his son looks at him and he says, "Well, I figured with all this horse manure in here, there has to be a pony in here somewhere." And he's trying to find the pony. So, that's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. It doesn't matter what your external circumstances are. Depending on how you look at things, you will have a very specific reaction. And I don't know why I'm an optimist. It makes no sense from my experiences and the life I've led and so forth, but I am anyway, so I'm going to roll with it. So good luck for all of us.
Well, and I would add that, long term, being an optimist will shape your life in a positive manner in a lot of ways. Not just psychologically, I think it'll actually help bring to you the things that you want more than being a pessimist will, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Just in general.
So Gabrielle says, "Maybe I'll reincarnate into a different universe and not have to come back here." Carla says, "Hearts." Gabrielle says, "I'm definitely a horse manure kid. I've had a terrible life." And Beth says, "That's awesome, cute story." Teresa says, "Let's bet on the pony." All right, so I guess we have to go, guys, because
thank you all for being here. You're a
it's been fun.
Chat.
Team Pony here too, says Jen. I have to believe the alternative is too soul destroying. Yep. And why not? All right, guys. So I guess we should see you next week, and hopefully you're all having a fantastic week. Barbara says, "Thank you, both of you, Ian and Siofra. Love you. You're great people. See you next week. Take care, everyone." Hearts.
Thank you.
Kisses. Beth says, "Great live. Blessed be." Carla says, "Rise, ladies. Love you all." And Ian says, "Thank you all for your great conversation. Blessed be all." Gabrielle says, "Blessed, bless you guys."
I got two E's in there.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Hey, that's okay. Carla has trouble with her fingers. Now she feels like she's not alone. Teresa says, "Thanks for the nice live, everyone. Until next week." And Jen says, "Blessed be. Love to everyone." And Carla says, "Blessed be Ian and Siofra." Okay, guys. Gotta go.